Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So for millions of Americans, unfortunately, every single month, their Social Security benefit is reduced by hundreds of dollars because of a couple of different rules that are currently in place. Now, there is a new piece of legislation this year that was introduced in both the House and the Senate that would fix this issue. So then these millions of Americans receiving Social Security benefits, where this rule impacts them, it would no longer impact them. So therefore, they would be receiving hundreds more every single month in their benefit. And like I said, this does have support from both sides of the aisle. So we're going to be discussing this bill and the likelihood of it actually passing. Also, with it seeming like every single month, Social Security is currently always pretty much under attack, like cut this or cut that, or the program is going to end. There is one piece of legislation by someone you probably wouldn't have thought would have actually drafted the bill that I don't think is really getting nearly enough attention and definitely needs to pass. So we're going to be going over that as well. But before I go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so like I just mentioned just a second ago, it just seems like Social Security is always pretty much under attack, like we should end it, like it's a bad program, it's a Ponzi scheme. We're hearing all these different quotes from different lawmakers about Social Security just being this terrible thing that needs to be taken away, or we need to cut it, we need to reduce it, we need to restructure it, this or that, and it's always getting a lot of this negative attention. And even though we do have a couple of different bills out there that would actually increase payments and are very pro Social Security, there's also been a lot of negativity around it. And actually during Joe Biden's State of the Union, he made a comment like, Republicans are trying to cut Social Security. Then of course we had a lot of the Republicans in the audience being like, oh no, we don't want to do that. We definitely do not want to do that. And part of the reason why Joe Biden was saying that Republicans want to cut Social Security is because there is a Republican senator in Rick Scott. He came up with a new plan that would sunset all federal spending every 5 years on discretionary programs. And as a discretionary program, Social Security would also sunset. So by sunsetting, basically what that means is that every 5 years, every program, including Social Security, would end. And then in order to renew it, it would have to be passed through the House, through the Senate, and then signed into law by the president. So essentially, pretty much every program would end, like I said, every 5 years. And if Congress thought it was worth renewing, at that point, they would renew it. But how unfair would it be for, like people paying into Social Security their entire career, having 6.2 to 12.4% taken out of their paycheck, and then Congress just decides, maybe 1 year they just don't want to renew it anymore. I mean, how unfair would that be? They should definitely not touch it or ever end the Social Security program. Maybe other ones they could look at, but definitely not Social Security. So Rick Scott, of course, got a lot of hate and he was under attack for that. Many would say rightfully so. But then shortly after that, he actually created a bill that I actually think was a pretty good bill. And that would make it so in order to end or cut Social Security, it would require at least 66 votes in the Senate, a 66% support of cutting Social Security. Now, right now, it requires 60 votes in the Senate to end it. This would up that threshold up to 66. So I think this would be a very good thing. So according to Think Advisor, new bill cuts IRS funding to boost Social Security and Medicare. So also it would cut some of the $80 billion in funding to the IRS. Of course, $21 billion was already cut with the debt ceiling negotiations. So this would just cut, an additional $59 billion from the funding. So Senator Rick Scott has introduced legislation that would establish a new Senate rule requiring 2/3 vote on any legislation cutting Social Security or Medicare benefits, and would redirect part of the $80 billion in IRS funding boost under the Inflation Reduction Act to the Social Security and Medicare trust funds. The bill, the Protect Our Seniors Act, also establishes a, quote, keep Medicare savings and Medicare requirement, Scott said. So as Scott explained, his bill would rescind funding from the Inflation Reduction Act for 87,000 new IRS agents and redirect those funds to the Medicare and Social Security Administration trust funds, create a budget point of order, and require a 2/3 vote against any legislation that the Congressional Budget Office determines would reduce existing Medicare and Social Security benefits, and also amend CBO scoring laws such that savings to Medicare cannot be used to offset or pay for spending outside of Medicare. So basically, any amount that they receive for the Medicare trust fund to pay for Medicare cannot be used to pay for something else. Like if they want to study, something within rats or whatever, the savings from Medicare cannot be used to pay for that. It has to stay to pay for Medicare in future years. So hopefully we don't have a shortfall in Medicare. And then also what it would do is it would reduce the funding towards the IRS. Like I mentioned earlier, $21 billion was already rescinded from the $80 billion that was allotted to them. So, I feel like since they already rescinded that amount, maybe they should put $21 billion into the Social Security Trust Fund, since of course we are going to have a shortfall by the year of, say, like 2033 to 2035. So all in all, I really think this is a good bill, but unfortunately it doesn't have any co-sponsors, as you can see up on the screen. So I'm not really sure how serious they're taking this, but all in all, I think would be a good thing, and it would definitely strengthen Social Security. If at least we took the $21 billion that we already rescinded from the IRS and put it into the Social Security Trust Fund, that would strengthen even more. And then if we required at least 66 votes to cut Social Security or Medicare in the Senate, rather than just 60, it would make it much more difficult for either party to cut Social Security or Medicare in the future. So I really don't know why they're not passing it, or why they're not even voting on this bill. Maybe because it's from Rick Scott and they don't want to put his bill on the floor. But I feel like it's a pretty good bill, at least. I mean, it doesn't increase benefits or anything like that, but it definitely strengthens it and keeps it around for the future. But let me know what you think about his bill in the comment section below. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Are you somewhere in between? Now, in addition to that, like I mentioned earlier on in today's video, of course, for millions of people who receive Social Security benefits, unfortunately, every single month their benefit is reduced by hundreds of dollars because of a couple of different rules that are currently in place. This is called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset, GPO for short. So basically, what they're trying to do in this bill, what they did in reintroducing this bill this year, they tried in a couple of different Congresses in the past, and both times it failed to get through, even though it had a lot of bipartisan support, is they're going to repeal both the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. So according to plan sponsor, Senators Sherrod Brown and Susan Collins reintroduced the Social Security Fairness Act on Thursday. The bill would repeal the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset, which currently combine to reduce the Social Security benefits paid to retirees who collect a public pension and were not paying into Social Security while working for that public employer. The WEP was enacted in 1983. It has the effect of reducing Social Security benefits for those receiving a non-covered pension, meaning a pension is sponsored by an employer that does not deduct Social Security payroll tax. The WEP comes into play for retirees who were employed by at least one public employer not covered by Social Security and another employer who does collect Social Security taxes. Since Social Security accounts for the payments into Social Security for the years of covered employment in a progressive method, those who work for both covered and non-covered employers are viewed by Social Security as if they had made a low income their entire life, which may not be true in light of their non-covered employment. This has the effect of Social Security paying progressive benefits to those with another source of retirement income. But as the senators highlight, the WEP also has the effect of providing these retirees with lower benefits than their lifetime payments into Social Security would otherwise entitle them if they did not have a non-covered pension. The GPO serves a similar purpose to the WEP and was enacted in 1977. The WEP applies to surviving spouses of public pensioners who did not pay into Social Security while earning that pension. The GPO reduces the Social Security benefits that the surviving spouse receives by 2/3 of the monthly value of the non-covered pension. So just as an example here, right on the Social Security Administration website, it says how much will my Social Security benefits be reduced with the government pension offset. So it says that will reduce your Social Security benefits by 2/3 of your government pension. In other words, if you get a monthly civil service pension of $600, 2/3 of that, or $400, must be deducted from your Social Security benefits. For example, if you're eligible for a $500 spouse's, widow's, or widower's benefit from Social Security, you'll get $100 a month from Social Security. And if 2/3 of your government pension is more than your Social Security benefit, your benefit could be reduced to zero. So obviously, both of these provisions greatly offset what you could potentially be receiving. Right now, around 3% of beneficiaries of Social Security are affected by both of these provisions. And quite frankly, both bills, once again, this bill was introduced in both the House and the Senate, and in both chambers it has a lot of support, and support from both sides of the aisle, which means that they should have enough votes to get this cleared through the House, cleared through the Senate, and then on to President Joe Biden's desk to be signed into law. So you can see right here on Congress.gov, in the House, it was actually introduced by a Republican, and it currently has 84 co-sponsors who are Republicans and 195 Democrats who are co-sponsoring the bill. And then also in the Senate, it was introduced by Sherrod Brown, a Democrat, and in the Senate, it has right now 44 co-sponsors, and it is bipartisan. They have 5 Republicans co-sponsoring under the bill. I would say more than likely they definitely have the 60 votes to get this thing passed. So I really don't know why they're not even trying to vote on the bill. Once again, they did this back in 2019. They did this in 2021. It was introduced. It had a lot of bipartisan support. But at the end of the day, they never even voted on the bill to try to get it to pass. So I'm not sure if it's all show, if they don't want to help these people out, or what's going on. Now, the only downside to this is, again, by, let's say, like 2033, the Social Security Trust Fund is expected to go insolvent, where people receiving Social Security benefits at that time would receive a cut in their benefits by right around 25%. So obviously, if you're going to be paying out even more benefits to these 2 million Americans who are affected by these two provisions, then we might have that insolvency date come up to maybe 2031, where at that point, we definitely had to be doing something, because right now we're about 10 years away. But if we're paying out even more benefits, that of course could push the insolvency date even closer to where we currently are. So that might be the only downside. They might have to bring in more revenues or figure out how to offset this if they were to pass this bill. But again, it does have support from both sides of the aisle. I'm not sure why they don't even vote on it. Hard saying, but let me know what your thoughts are on this bill in the comment section below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Always interested in reading your comments below. But that's all the news that I have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.